Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video from Via Doctus, which we will dedicate to the history of tattoos. Have you ever wondered when humans began using tattoos to decorate their bodies, or what their purpose was? We know that tattoos today are used as a form of art and expression, as fashion, or as a means of personal self-determination. But they also have a history full of symbolism and meaning. This video presents a fascinating narrative of ancient cultures, mysticism, and even cruelty. We will explore this aspect that different human cultures and civilizations have shared throughout history, from their origins to the present day. We must begin this story at the start. Although the truth is, we do not know exactly when humans began using tattoos. What we do know is that the first evidence we have dates back approximately 5,300 years. In 1991, two German mountaineers discovered what appeared to be a frozen human corpse on a glacier located on the modern-day border between Austria and Italy. Once the body was recovered by Austrian authorities, it was taken to the city of Innsbruck for further analysis. There, it was discovered to be the mummy of a man who died around 3255 BC at approximately 46 years of age, making it the oldest natural human mummy found in Europe. This ancient man was later nicknamed Ötzi, after the Ötztal Valley where he was found. Ötzi was an ancient Neolithic hunter, frozen for over 5 millennia, who had a total of 68 tattoos on his body. These tattoos, located on his left wrist, the lumbar region of his back, and his legs, consist of small groups of 3 or 4 parallel lines that do not form any recognizable pattern. Scientists, using X-rays, have determined that Ötzi may have suffered from arthritis in these areas. It has therefore been speculated that the tattoos could have been applied for magical or healing purposes in the hope of alleviating his pain. In addition to Ötzi, we know that the Egyptians also used tattoos 5,000 years ago. The oldest known evidence consists of the so-called Ghibeline mummies, which are currently housed in the British Museum. This pair, dating from between 3351 BC and 3017 BC, provides the second oldest evidence of tattooed humans. Unlike Ötzi's tattoos, the tattoos on these two Egyptian mummies are the oldest known examples of figurative tattoos that represent images. On the man's body, archaeologists found images of what appears to be a Barbary sheep, while the woman's body displays 4 S-shaped symbols on the top of her shoulder and another L-shaped one on her abdomen that, according to archaeologists, could represent a wooden staff or crook. These images seem to carry symbolic meaning. In addition, we also know that in the centuries that followed, Egyptian priestesses of Hathor tattooed their lower abdomens. Numerous mummies found in archaeological excavations bear these tattoos, identifying them as devotees of this goddess. Among them, the mummy of Amunet, discovered in 1891, stands out. It shows patterns of lines tattooed on her arms, thighs, and lower abdomen. Various scholars have interpreted these tattoos as symbols of fertility, as the priestesses served Hathor, who, among her many roles, was the goddess of motherhood and fertility. Furthermore, as far as we know, the practice of tattooing in ancient Egypt was common among women, but quite rare among men. As almost no signs of tattoos have been found on male mummies, most of the tattoos on female mummies consist of simple sets of lines or dots related to motherhood or fertility. However, the discoveries made in the mummies of Deir el-Medina are especially remarkable. These mummies bear more than 30 tattoos with sacred symbols, which could have emphasized the religious powers of these two women who lived more than 3,000 years ago. These tattoos have left experts astounded, as they are the first found on a mummy from dynastic Egypt that depict actual objects, including lotus flowers on the hip, sacred cows of Hathor on the arm, baboons on the neck, and the so-called eyes of Horus. These symbols, possibly used for protection against evil, adorn the neck, shoulders, and back of one of the mummies. From any angle, a pair of divine eyes would seem to return the viewer's gaze. In ancient Greece and Rome, tattooing was seen as a practice of barbarian peoples. Some classical authors already referred to tattooing as a common custom among the Thracian, Gallic, and Germanic peoples. Herodotus tells us that among the Thracians, being marked with a tattoo was a sign of social distinction, and the absence of one was typical of people of low birth or those held in contempt. It is believed that the Greeks adopted tattooing techniques from the Persians, and that King Xerxes himself marked war prisoners with his seal, thus relegating them to disgrace. The Greeks also used tattoos similarly to mark slaves and criminals, making them easier to identify if they attempted to escape. In addition, various classical authors mentioned tattooing as a form of punishment, and Plato himself argued that individuals guilty of sacrilege should be tattooed and expelled from Athens. Later, the Romans adopted this practice from the Greeks. Since their armies were composed of a significant number of mercenaries, these soldiers were tattooed to identify deserters and punish them. Similarly, in Rome, many slaves were tattooed on the forehead with the seal of their owner to mark ownership. It is said that to disguise this mark, slaves began to grow their bangs to their eyebrows to hide it, a fashion that later spread to the entire population, including free citizens. Interestingly, it's worth noting that the original word the Romans used to denote tattooing in Latin was stigma, and its original meaning persists in some modern languages. Among its various meanings, stigma refers to a piercing made with a pointed instrument, a distinctive mark made in the flesh of a slave or criminal, or a mark of disgrace or shame. Finally, around 330 AD, Emperor Constantine I expressly prohibited facial tattoos, allowing them only on the hands or legs. This imperial decision was strongly influenced by the growing presence of Christianity, which held that a man's face was created in the image and likeness of God, and therefore it was sacrilegious to disfigure it. Centuries later, at the Second Council of Nicaea in 787, Christians were forbidden from tattooing any part of their skin, as it was considered a pagan practice. Culturally, tattooing remained stigmatized in Europe, being associated with paganism, criminality, or slavery. In the Middle Ages, there were some exceptions to this tattoo taboo. With the arrival of the Crusades at the end of the 11th century, it became common for Templar knights to tattoo a cross on their hand. If they perished in battle, they hoped this symbol would indicate that they wished to receive a Christian burial. Also during this period, the practice of tattooing became common among those who completed pilgrimages to the Holy Land as a way to demonstrate their achievement. The most common tattoo for pilgrims was the so-called Jerusalem cross, which represented the wounds Jesus suffered on the cross. In fact, this tradition has continued to the present day in modern Jerusalem, with families like the Razuk family, who have preserved this art of tattooing pilgrims for more than 7 centuries. We also know that around 1000 BC, tattooing began to spread through trade routes in Asia, India, China, and Japan. In Japan, tattooing was used as a way to mark criminals who were marginalized from society or even ostracized by their own families. Historically, the Japanese yakuza mafia also used tattoos as a way to express their bravery and loyalty to the clan. However, during Japan's opening to the West in 1842, the government under Emperor Meiji prohibited the practice of tattoos to avoid giving foreign visitors the impression of savagery. In the islands of the Pacific Ocean, Polynesian culture has gained great fame for its tattooing practices, with a distinct iconography that has since spread around the globe. We know that in ancient times, Polynesian cultural practices were transmitted orally, as Polynesians did not use written language before the arrival of missionaries. However, tattoos also played a role in the transmission of knowledge, using the human body as a canvas. Traditionally, these tattoos served as a form of identification or social rank, revealing family genealogy or important milestones in the bearer's life. During adolescence, when a person transitioned from childhood to adulthood, they were marked with a tattoo identifying them with their community. As they matured socially and achieved individual milestones, more tattoos were added. The more tattoos a person accumulated throughout their life, the greater their prestige, as tattoos were seen as symbols of strength, power, and wealth. Leaders and great warriors were recognized by their intricate and elaborate tattoos. Additionally, the origin of the word tattoo comes from these islands in Oceania. It was British Captain James Cook who, in the late 18th century, brought back the term after his travels to Polynesia. The word derives from the expression ta atua, a combination of ta, which can be translated as drawing written on the skin, and atua, meaning spirit. Subsequently, some European sailors who had come into contact with indigenous peoples adopted tattoos, gradually bringing this custom back to Europe. For a long time, it remained popular among sailors as a distinctive symbol of their profession. Additionally, sailor tattoos gradually became associated with delinquency, as many fugitives took to the sea to avoid being prosecuted on land. By the 20th century, however, tattoo culture had spread globally throughout Western society, largely shedding the cultural stigma that had followed it for centuries, inherited from ancient traditional values. As you can see, the history of tattoos has been intertwined with various cultures and regions across the world, and their purpose has varied greatly depending on the context. Sometimes they were aesthetic or artistic, other times they indicated high social status, or conversely, marginalization. In some cases, tattoos were believed to have magical or protective qualities, while in others, they served religious or mystical purposes. This art, which humans have developed over the centuries, could certainly be the subject of a second, more extensive video, as we've left out many interesting facts to keep the length manageable. So, this concludes today's video from Via Doctus. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give it a like. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.